Hey guys, how's
Hey,
it going?
thanks so much
Uh,
for having us. This is great fun to be here on the
yeah,
stage with you.
yeah. Likewise, I
I'm
understand
waiting
this is
to
a,
start
a first
singing.
time collabo. I understand this is a first time appearance between you two, but apparently there's some musical backstory here that I was learning in the green
Right.
room. You guys have like, I'm told that you and Yoni have like a song that you might want to debut here exclusively. What's the backstory here? What's going on?
I've written a couple of songs for entrepreneurs. Um, One was the Risk Master to the entrepreneurs of the world, and then one was the Bitcoin Hustle, which is probably more appropriate for this stage. And Yanni apparently was in the audience when I first did it, sort of as a spoken word, and we had a lot of fun. And Yanni and I have met on a couple of occasions, but just not on stage. So fun to be on stage with you, and fun to do this. Um, I think I think it would be. This is where Zoom isn't quite as good as live, and so I think we will save the audience. But
Oh man, okay.
look it up. Look for the Bitcoin Hustle. Flex your crypto muscle. Do the
And I
Bitcoin
think
Sounds
that
Hustle.
good. So
means
before we get going,
that next
sorry,
time
Yoni, I
we're
cut you
we're
off.
on live on stage with a live audience, we'll do a song together.
We'll do it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this is
we
it.
might even create one. We might even
All right,
come
that's a
together and
commitment.
create one.
This is the new Jimmy Song Joe Lubin bet. This is the new price prediction. We're gonna see you guys on stage doing music next time we're live. So before we get going, I wanted to dig down into this tease. You guys just announced a 25 million fund. Congratulations on that. Aside from the best of the best, as one of your colleagues teased there, Tim. What aspects of the market right now are you interested in when it comes to the startup side investments? Like where are you going to be deploying this fresh capital?
Well, this is really exciting. The Draper Goren Holm is a critical asset now to the Draper Venture Network. And this central focus on the blockchain and companies around crypto and decentralization are going to be absolutely critical moving forward as we decentralize the world. Um, we're having by the way, Shira, we can hear you. Um, Shira, I hope you mute there. Um, anyway, the world is going through this amazing transformation. The internet opened it all up. We ended up being able to trade across borders. The world started to open up. And then when Bitcoin came along, all of a sudden we had a currency that we could use globally, and one that we could have faith in, even if a government, for instance, printed $13 trillion. We could still have a currency that would not dilute, and that was the beginning of something that I think is going to be a major change in the world. And I think the world is going to go through an anthropological leap because we realize we used to be tribal, and that was sort of a way of being secure. We'd say, okay, this is the border, don't cross this border, and our people will be safe. Well, now we realize that the borders are becoming more and more meaningless, and the decentralized world becomes more important. And it will be everything from banking to insurance to real estate to governance that are going to change and become decentralized around the world, and that's going to make us global, completely global. And so over the next 20 years, we're going to see an amazing globalization. I mean, there's of course the nationalism that is the response to this, and the governments that are weak, or the ones who are trying to cling to the past, are trying to become nationalists, put up trade wars or whatever. Those barriers are bad for us, but they're also really just kind of the roar of the dying lion as we move to this new world. And it's very exciting. And then if you break down crypto, it starts with Bitcoin, and it starts with a currency and the blockchain and the smart contracts. And then it moves to DeFi, where you start getting all of this, all of the things that are happening with dollars today now can start to happen with crypto. And then from there, I think you move to the e-commerce world, where OpenNode and others like it can bring it so that the merchant can accept Bitcoin. And I think that those are sort of the three stages. And once those stages are done, and it's easy to use, and the world opens up, we are going to have a truly crypto, decentralized, open world. And all of that change is going to be driven by entrepreneurs like the ones who are out there. And they are going to be making amazing things happen. And we want to be there for you. Hopefully, we'll be able to back the best and the brightest of you.
I want to jump in there. It's been the summer of DeFi, and I think your perspective on this is going to be really interesting. I mean, the summer of DeFi has led to DEXs, decentralized exchanges, flexing their muscle in terms of facilitating trading and also sort of this evolution toward a decentralized future. You represent a CEX in the term of art, a CEX, a centralized exchange. And I'm really curious about your views on whether you're worried right now. Are you worried that DEXs and DeFi are going to come eat your lunch? Or do you think that you have the adequate services and also, regulatory tailwinds behind you that will cement your position going forward? How does eToro view the summer of DeFi?
Sure. So first of all, I think that DeFi is super interesting. And I think this is a bit of an unknown fact. We actually built a decentralized exchange back in 2012 based on the colored coin protocol we developed in eToro, which was tokenizing assets on top of the Bitcoin network. So this was really, really premature, the beginning of thinking of tokenization. And we actually built an exchange with atomic swaps on top of Bitcoin. Now, waiting for 8 to 15 minutes for the swap to actually happen, and the lack of actual stable coins and real assets on the Bitcoin network actually made this very much premature. So first of all, I'm a very big believer in DeFi, specifically in the ability of transforming what today is a lot of legal mumbo jumbo, reconciliation, clearing, settlement at T+1 and T+2, making all of that code, making everything semi-real time, and making everything transparent potentially is called when you think about complex financial deals between multiple participants, which is very difficult today, and through DeFi becomes significantly simplified. So I've always been fascinated by how blockchain potentially simplifies transfer of assets, clearing, settlement, when you think about sort of financial services where we are today, basically clearing and settling stock trading at $1 trillion plus per year volumes. So I really think DeFi today, as it's built, is super interesting. It's really in its infancy, and eventually the people who are today dealing with DeFi, and I consider myself one of them, as I have MetaMask and I'm playing with some of the protocols, is still for finance geeks. It's still for people who really understand how to use MetaMask, how to use Ethereum addresses, how to potentially, by the way, which is very important, sort of look at the code, or at least read somebody who went through the code of these DeFi protocols to make sure you're not into a scam, that nobody really controls your coins. So it's super important, because these are the mechanics, these are the quants of this new world, but that's not the mass market. The mass market eventually needs a simple user interface, a great user experience to access the markets, whether it's the crypto markets, whether it's the stock markets. It's really about simplifying the user interface. And I think what DeFi does, it simplifies financial transactions between multiple participants, which could be, by the way, super complex in today's world with lawyers and accountants needed to do them, and simplifies everything to code. And for those who understand code, can read smart contracts, can write smart contracts, that's a leap because you don't need to talk to lawyers, which is great. But for those who really would just want the experience of trading and investing, which is eventually the mass market, I think for those, they would still need platforms like eToro to be able to access the global markets. And more than that, when you think about trading and investing in general, it's not only about the simplified user experience, it's sometimes about really finding how do you make the decisions. In eToro, we took the approach that you can actually copy the top traders on our social trading network. There are different approaches, but it's how do you simplify the decision making of where do I invest, how do I invest, how much do I invest, to again the mass global audience. And I think that's the biggest difference between today and 20 years ago with the dot-com bubble, is just the market is so much bigger, so much such a big global audience from Israel, where eToro was originally based in, to the US, to Asia, to Europe. The entire world is now connected. The entire world is using DeFi, is using Bitcoin. And I think that's really the world that Tim just defined, that 10 years from today, everything is going to be one global marketplace for everybody to access, trade, invest, and invent for everyone around the world.
Yeah, I love covering this space because we're in this transition moment, and with transition comes friction, and comes tension, and comes drama, and comes legal enforcement. And I definitely wanted, before I switched over to Tim, I definitely wanted to ask you for your take on this one. BitMEX obviously commanded the headlines last week. A derivatives exchange notorious for not abiding by the legal mumbo jumbo that most players in the market abide by. Yoni, from where you sit, what's your lesson there? When you look at this CFTC action and this Department of Justice action by the U.S. to strike out against BitMEX, what's your takeaway from that news story that emerged last week and really captivated the attention of both the crypto markets and also the mass market?
I think I can only talk about eToro's view about regulation. I think in general we were always very strict and straightforward about being regulated. We were the first regulated, basically broker-dealer who was trading in stock trading, who was able to offer cryptocurrency trading, Bitcoin first, then ETH, then XRP. We did that with a lot of collaboration from our regulators in the UK, in Europe, in Australia. We're now regulated across 45 states in the US, offer crypto trading, and we're doing that with sort of the top-notch legal advisors in the US. So our view is that it's very important for the large players, the companies like us with millions of users, to be regulated and to give that comfort of regulation to the mass consumers. Now, obviously, Bitcoin as itself isn't something that can be regulated, and I think that's a very big part of the magic of Bitcoin as a currency. But I think there's a difference between companies who are domiciled in a specific jurisdiction, who have potentially aspirations to grow their enterprise value and want to protect their consumers, versus purely protocols, which I do believe have a place to be unregulated because they're purely code. They don't deal with fiat. And again, if you think about the Bitcoin protocol, a big part of its magic and the fascination of a lot of people around it was, wow, you've just built someone anonymous built it, and it could just run forever without the need of the complexity of sort of regulatory approvals, etc. So I think in general there's a place for decentralization in the unregulated space. But I think if you are a company and you are handling customer assets, you're taking on yourself a big responsibility. There are a lot of parts in it, whether it's reconciling, whether it's custody of customer funds, etc. I think consumers, especially the mass market consumers who want to understand that they're investing in someplace else, should probably do that in regulated marketplaces, exchanges, or broker dealers, where developers of protocols, innovators can obviously think about decentralization, etc. And I think there's a link between those two. And we, as a company, are very cautiously looking at this space, innovating while collaborating and communicating with regulators. But I think, again, there's a big fascination around the decentralization and unregulated space as well.
Yeah, I think just the philosophical underpinnings of that are really fascinating, and I would love to pick your brain further on that at a later date. I do want to go back to Bitcoin. I mean, we mentioned, this is the summer of DeFi. This is the summer of unaudited smart contracts with weird vegetable names and staggering yields. Tim, I wanted to throw this question your way. It seems like there's sort of, I don't know if I would call it a groundswell yet, or even a meme, but Bitcoin feels a little bit boring these last few months. Feels a little bit steady, a little bit slow. I'm just going to throw out the statement, is Bitcoin boring? Yes, no, and why?
Boring is probably not the word I'd come up with for it, but boring usually does create value. I think I look at it this way, and I'm going to reflect back on your last question too about regulators. I think there's some really interesting dynamics happening in the world today. Various governments are. Hey, we hear you.
We're getting a little audio feedback here, guys.
Yeah, please mute.
There we go. Looks like they're going to do that. Thanks, Tim.
So the regulated environment is an ongoing dynamic situation. And if you're a regulator, you're saying, wait a second, what are you guys doing? And if you're an innovator, you're going, hey, get on board. This is going to be awesome. And so, hey, can you guys mute, please? We're still
I'm not sure, by
hearing
the way,
him.
that the audience listens to the background from the back room.
Okay. Hopefully the audience isn't hearing all that noise that we're hearing. Okay, so you have this friction that's created by the innovator and the regulator, and they're trying to figure it all out. The regulators are in some ways trying to protect their people, but in some ways they are concerned because all of a sudden, if you're just operating your entire business in crypto, where are their taxes? And I think they feel like they've solved that problem, but they really haven't. Because here's what I envision. I envision being able to create a fund that is all in Bitcoin. They invest in Bitcoin. I put it into all the entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs in Bitcoin. They pay their employees and suppliers in Bitcoin. The whole thing can be kept on the blockchain, accounted for, everything. And then a smart contract can make sure that everybody gets paid what they're supposed to get paid at the right time. Now that's perfect for an economic point of view. If you're a government entity, you're saying, whoa, wait, where do I fit in here? And I think the way to fit in is somehow for governments to recognize that the first thing they really need to do is figure out taxing. And the way you would tax is either you tax on transactions, like 0.001% on every transaction that goes through, or you treat it exactly the same way as you treat other currencies, but you allow those businesses to operate completely in Bitcoin and then pay your taxes in Bitcoin so that you're not paying a bunch of accountants to switch back and forth between dollars and Bitcoin and dollars and Bitcoin. It's the regulators are need to think, how do we simplify the system now? Instead of let's support lawyers and accountants forever. I think there's this, we have now the technology to do something really extraordinary with the economy, with the world economy. We have created a frictionless system. It doesn't require the merchants to pay 2.5% to 4% to the bank every time you swipe a credit card. It doesn't require all those transfer agents and all that garbage that Yoni was talking about that get in the way of progress. We have a new vehicle for progress. So if the governments are comfortable and they feel like, hey, we're getting the taxes we're supposed to be getting, then the regulators won't be as nasty and they won't feel like they have to come down so hard on people because they're getting their piece. And I think that that's going to make a big difference going forward. I think we're going to end up with something really extraordinary. But the governments that are going to win are the ones who get out in front of this and they go for it. The ones who are going to lose are going to be the ones who say, no, but it all has to translate back into dollars or yen or euros or whatever. No, move forward, take your taxes in Bitcoin and go forward that way. This is going to be a really interesting time. And the transition may be a little bit shaky. And so things like the BitMEX and other things are going to happen. But you're also in a really interesting time that 10 years from now, we are going to have a very smooth operation of the economy, and it'll be global. Very exciting time coming. And so not sure if that answered the first part of your question, but I wanted to hit on because they got to go the right way. And then Yoni also hit on user experience. Absolutely. The only ones who are really getting involved in Bitcoin and crypto and whatever are engineers. And so as you can improve the experience and make people feel more comfortable about it, great things are going to happen. And that's where, my prediction for $250,000 per Bitcoin happens. That 1 out of 14 Bitcoin wallets is owned by a woman, only 1 out of every 14, but women control 80% of the retail spending. So when those two things come together and the women jump in here, this is going to be, and they realize, hey, I'm saving 2.5% every time I swipe my credit card. This is going to be a world where we're kind of going, wow, why did we ever use dollars that were tied to political forces?
Yeah, I wanted to jump back.
I just want to add something.
Go for it.
Yeah, just want to add something which I think is super important, is the importance of central bank digital currency. So I'm not sure a lot of countries are going to waive their currencies, but I think if a country is going to be smart enough to create a central digital currency through the government, but that creates a frictionless conversion to Bitcoin, to Ethereum, to stable coins, I think that's really the aha moment, and probably a more probable scenario than having like governments say, okay, let's give out our monetary controls and let's just use Bitcoin. But I think that is the core here, is when governments really embrace it. I'll just add to that a non-popular and very unpopular opinion. If I was a regulator, that's maybe when I'll have gray hair, I would actually demand the JPs, the Goldmans, the Morgans, the Citibanks, the Deutsche Banks, I would go out and tell them every single transaction has to happen on the blockchain. You're not allowed to do any single transaction that's not on public blockchains.
Yeah, I mean, that's the vision of, Chris Giancarlo and others. When you hear them talking about the 2008 financial meltdown, and they talk, forcefully, emotionally, intelligently about how a lot of this financial catastrophe, could have been thwarted if a lot of this stuff was more transparent and recorded publicly. Yoni, I did want to jump back to you on the regulator question. You sit at a global platform.
Wait, I wanted to mention something to Yoni though. because sure, in the US, people may still want crypto dollars, but why would you want a currency that is like Iceland created Aurora coin? Who cares? You know, it's only going to be able to be used in Iceland. Aren't we
I'm
past?
talking about. I'm just talking about things like the dollar, like the euro. I mean, like I had Warren Buffett tell me, like my grandson will always prefer the US dollar over Bitcoin. What I'm saying is that that might be possible. Some people might prefer the US dollar or the euro or the pound to transact, to reconcile, and if that works really smoothly in a frictionless environment with digital currencies, I think that's great.
I understand why Warren Buffett wants everybody to work in dollars because he's got a lot of dollars. But I don't think his grandson will agree.
He said exactly the same thing about you and Bitcoin.
He's right.
No
He's
way.
right.
Yoni,
Absolutely.
was this at the Justin Sun lunch? Was this at the Justin Sun lunch in which these gems were dropped?
Yeah, that was at the futile dinner of trying to convince him to believe in Bitcoin. That didn't went well. I got out believing in value investing.
Oh no, he converted you. Oh no, yeah, I would love to have been a fly on the wall at that meal. If you want to share any nuggets, any PG-13 nuggets from that meal, I'm all ears.
You know that Warren Buffett,
think,
half of his portfolio is banks, and another 10% is insurance companies. I mean, he really doesn't want crypto to take off. He doesn't want Bitcoin anywhere near him until he can sell all of his
100% on Bitcoin, but on blockchain, which was interesting because we hear a lot of smart people talk about blockchain, don't necessarily understand the Bitcoin narrative of digital gold, but he was very clear that he hears from all of the CEOs and the smartest people in the world that the blockchain is the future. And I think that's a good start. So this is the future. And these are two sort of parallel tracks. There's the macroeconomic Bitcoin as an asset, and there's blockchain as a technology that's going to transform everything, including the existing financial services paradigm.
So I'm going to do my moderator's duty and keep us to time. As a moderator, we swear to this oath. We just ran out of time, right on time. It's perfect. I'm going to toss it back to the organizers. But first, I'm going to thank you, Tim, you, Yoni. It's great to talk to you both. I'm looking forward to the onstage performance of the Bitcoin Hustle remix at a future date. So thanks so much for joining us.
I'm going to send Tim a song right now. Thank you very much, Zach. It's a pleasure.